Let's hear what Richard Tice, Vice President of Reform, had to say about his anger at the dual justice system after visiting Lucy Connolly in prison. Are you aware that more than 95% of our viewers aren't subscribed? We get it. Life can be hectic and it's easy to overlook. But here's something important. Subscribing is free and lets us keep making the content you enjoy. Why not join our community by clicking the subscribe button? It takes just a second, and it makes a big difference for us. We truly appreciate your support.
And so I've put the threshold at 500 people. If 500 people sign a form to say they want the Criminal Cases Review Commission to relook at a sentence, not to relitigate the case, not to challenge the evidence or anything, but just to review the sentence. And if that commission then looks at the sentence and says, yes, that's worth another, like a treble check, then that they would have the ability to have a treble check whether a sentence is too lenient or whether it is too harsh. Because at the moment that doesn't exist in our legal system. And to reiterate, you're not relitigating the case. We're not calling into dispute the brilliance of our legal system and our judges. What we're just saying is sometimes, however good you are, you might not quite get it right, and it's not unreasonable to have like a treble check of the sentence itself. And people might say, well, is 500 enough or too many? We can have that debate. I just think in an evolving democracy that believes in continually getting better, where we think there is a patent case where the judges have just got it wrong, on this occasion, there should be an ability for the British people to say, are you really sure? Let's just treble check.
I just wanted to question what you meant by, a patent case of it being unduly lenient or harsh. For example, how would you prevent this bill from being abused? You could say that a gang member could get 500 people together to, kind of contest the law, and then it would be. And that's exactly
so. Well, so they're not. You can't relitigate the case. So someone's either been found guilty or not guilty. If they've been found guilty, no one's challenging that. What we're really saying is, look, it's a treble check in the event that a significant number of people, and we can debate the number. If you think 500 is too few, that's what I would call more than friends and family. That's more than just a gang. But if people say, well, it's a reasonable idea, Richard, but maybe it needs to be 1,000 or 2,000 so that it's something really significantly wrong, let's talk about it. But it must be right to talk about these things, even if they're difficult, and even if people say, well, hang on, Richard, you're trying to interfere with the legal system. No, actually, we're not. What we're saying is sometimes you may just want to treble check something.
Could you say that it might open a doorway for people to, call anything unduly lenient or unduly harsh? Would any case be able to be referred to the CCRC?
I think all of that is to be looked at. And there is at the moment the ability, if you think something is, just for one member of public, if they think something is unduly lenient, they can apply to the Attorney General to look at the sentence. Well, maybe my suggestion is actually sort of less challenging than that. That's far more likely to be potentially abused. This is, to get 500 signatures on a form is not an easy thing. You've got to explain it to 500 people and they've got to be convinced. So, I think you can always say at the margin something might be abused. That doesn't mean you shouldn't talk about it, you shouldn't raise it, you shouldn't discuss it. And that's what I'm doing. And I think that something like Lucy Connolly's situation, where many, many people feel that her sentence was unduly harsh in the first place, even if you thought it was the appropriate sentence, you might say, well, why hasn't she been granted the ability to be released on temporary leave on compassionate grounds? So I think there are genuine situations where you say, actually, I'm not sure you've got this quite right.
And just on that saying, I'm not sure you've got that quite right, why should the general public, perhaps, who may not have a professional understanding of the law, get a say over judges, experienced judges, juries who are privy to certain evidence that perhaps may have not been publicly released?
Never underestimate the common sense of the great British public and their gut instinct for where something is fair or not fair. And we're all human. Judges can get things wrong. And sometimes there can be political pressure. And in this situation, we had a Prime Minister that essentially effectively ordered the judges to give very strict sentences, and people have got very serious concerns about that. So yeah, I think this is a really important moment, and I do think that in someone like Lucy's case, she was wrongly advised by the initial defence team to plead guilty. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Those that pled not guilty and ignored that advice, their cases are coming up and they're having a very different judicial experience. So yeah, I think in this case there's a lot of concern amongst the British public that Lucy Connolly and others were the victim of two-tier justice.
And you mentioned that you want it to be the CCRC that's reviewing it and not the Attorney General. Could you go into a bit more detail about why?
Well, the Attorney General is a busy person, male or female, and the Attorney General ultimately is a political person. It's a political appointee, whereas the Criminal Cases Review Commission should not be that, and I think that's an appropriate body to look at it. It exists. So again, it's not in any way changing the existing structures and bodies out there. It's just saying, here's a moment to say, actually, it's another mechanism to check that we've got our justice system as good as we possibly can. And I don't think that's unreasonable.
The CCRC has had a bit of controversy recently concerning Malkinson and other cases like this. Do you think that this could be adding extra work on?
Well, clearly, if it was brought in at some future point, then yes, it could potentially be extra work. But it would.